Okay, so are there any questions on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, so you brought up MR2G and other kind of polling-based monitoring technologies, as well as the notion of distributed pollers. So if you're managing 500,000 nodes from a single box, are you relying on SNMP traps to notify you on status?
No, we're sending SNMP gets to get that data just as they are and bringing it back as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many parameters per switchboard?
Right.
Are we keeping with
So, and this is key to your question. Those two questions are almost one and the same. Yeah, we don't go out to get every SNMP variable that there is. We target the variables that we think are going to give us the majority of the questions that you could ask about the network. So we get in-out octets, we get in-out packets, we get in-out discards, we get in-out errors, we get OPA status for the polling, we get is it multicast or broadcast, we do that with receive and transmit.
Is that customizable? Like if I wanted...
No, and this is really hitting a key difference between Statseeker and other products. Where other products try to be, I'll loosely call them a development tool. They'll give you the ability to add any MIB you want, any variable you want, and produce a graph eventually. But with that flexibility comes complexity and scalability problems. We've gone the opposite way. We've said, look, if you line up 1,000 customers and ask them what they all want the same thing. Everyone wants to know what's down, what's slow, what's congested, what's dropping packets, what's running errors, what's flapping, what's the SLA performance like. So we just built it to do that. So we restrict the number of OIDs that you're able to collect, but with that comes the ability to scale it out to do it on the whole network.
Makes sense.
Are analytics and reporting being done on that box also?
Yeah, I'll actually show it to you live in a moment. Yep.
You could still put in another engine just to poll those custom variables. So there's nothing stopping you from still having...
Yeah, you can still run MRTG on the side or whatever to pull like, G-random variable that you want.
Yeah, but Statseeker is, as Stewart says, just by polling those OIDs, I can imagine they can have a software platform. Because keep in mind that the distance between the management server and the destination is variable.
Yeah.
So they have to poll the OID in such a way that it,
No, it makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, just I'm used to the MRTG way of doing things where you have a J-random thing you want to pull or whatever. But my MRTG instance, we've just thrown a ton of hardware at it, and it's a Dell PowerEdge R910 with 128 gigs of RAM and 16 SSDs. It can pull 1 million ports in 19 seconds. But the box itself costs $150,000. Just because our network guys got tired of it.
But it's also just inside a campus.
So it's just no, it's the state of Wisconsin.
Okay. So, which isn't very large.
No, it's not. It's a little speculative now.
Yeah.
The airplane that Stephen was pointing out.
It's more lakes than anything.
And there may be some issues there as well with how long the data is stored for and how quickly it's accessed as well. So it's not that Statseeker is doing anything different to what you would get from SolarWinds or WhatsUp Gold or MRTG or CA Unicenter eHealth. We're all collecting the same SNMP variables. It's just that we're doing it on a much bigger scale, typically much more granular, and we never throw that data out. So we call that an industrial strength baseline. And the way your questions are probably going to go very soon is, what's it look like? So are there any other questions on the theory behind it? Yeah.
So it looks like it scales up really well. Does the licensing and stuff scale down so it's competitive with the other products?
Yeah, it does. We start, and I'm happy to talk about pricing, we start where the other products begin to lose their scalability edge. Okay, so there are products out there, SolarWinds, WhatsUp Gold, these kinds of products, and they typically start with about a 250 port license, and then you scale up from there, and not long after that we end up with the multiple polar slowing the polling down kind of problem. So we begin our license at 1,000 ports. So if you're a network with less than 1,000 ports, then those other products are perfect. They're actually very good, well-featured products that are excellent for that. But if you've got 1,000 ports or above, that's where we start. 1,000 port license is Statseeker at retail is about $8,000, and then it scales up to the 500,000 port license, and that's about, not sure that I want to say this out on the public air, but we'll see what happens. So about $145,000 to $150,000 is a enterprise license.
Based on your experience, how do the end devices like having that many edge ports polled once a minute? I mean, do you see problems with SNMP CPU going through the roof on particularly on older switches or older?
If you go back about 18 years, you get to the Nortel passport switches, and they didn't like being polled by anything ever. But in the last probably 10 years, no. And part of the reason for that is the way the polling is actually done. And I've already put it on the podcast, so I can put it out here as well. It's out there in the world now, isn't it? Yeah, so what we do is we look at spreading the load that's placed on that switch over the entire 60 seconds. So say you've got a 300 port switch. Instead of getting all of the data for those 300 ports and doing it in the first couple of seconds, then saying, great, we're done with that switch, let's go to the next one. And then we hit that really hard and get all of the data and then move on to the next one. Instead, what we do is we say, let's spread the load over the entire minute. So if we've got 300 ports to monitor, we might go and monitor, say, 10 ports in the first couple of seconds and then 10 ports in the next couple of seconds. So what you find is that we are constantly touching the switch for a small bit of data instead of going bang every minute and asking it to stop switching while it reports to us. Right. Okay, that's one of several things that we do to make this possible in the real world. And I'll show you real world in a minute with a network that's got 20,000 ports on it in multiple WAN sites.
So you're focusing on just network switching, Ethernet stats. Put away the blue code proxies, put away the ASA firewalls, put away
That's right.
the UPSs, put away the printers.
Well, no, we are getting toner on printers, we are getting power input output voltages on UPSs, we are getting hard disk drive utilization on servers.
So
but you see, those kinds of things, you can do those with MRTG. So we just put that in the software because our customers say, do I have to use MRTG anymore or can I use this? But
that's what I'd be saying.
yeah, but the core for us, the pedigree for us, when we first started, we didn't have any of that stuff. We didn't have NetFlow, which is built in. We didn't have syslog, which is all just built in. It's part of the licensing. In the old days, all we had was just, you've got 1,000 switch ports. Do you know which one's the most busy right now? No? Well, why don't we show you? So that's our pedigree, and over the years, we've just added more of those features in to round it out. They're not supplied as modules. You don't go and buy syslog, and then you buy NetFlow, and then you buy UPSs. You just get Statseeker, and it's got all of that stuff just in it already. Okay, yeah.
So when it comes to like predefined templates, like here, like Nagios Exchange or some open source stuff, there's predefined libraries for products you support. So you mentioned networking, you mentioned printers. Are you expecting your end users to predefine these kind of the SNMP queries to pull the data, or are you pushing library form?
No. If I understand your question correctly, no. I'll answer it. This is one of those times where I said to you at the start, I'm not a technical person, but I know the answer to your question. I'm not going to sound like a techo when I answer it. So I believe I'll get to your answer. If I don't, then rephrase the question for me. But Statseeker uses MIB2, which is vendor independent. Okay. We ping, which is vendor independent. We use the host resources MIB, which will pick up all of the server stuff. We do have the specific MIB loaded for Juniper, Cisco, Foundry. But otherwise, at an interface level, which is our core uniqueness, it's vendor independent because of the MIB2 side of things. So there is no template status to set up to say, I want to monitor this one and not that one. You can actually define what you want to monitor or not.
You mentioned things like you're monitoring disk utilization and whatnot, which you
host resources.
vendor,
yeah.
Dell, HP, Cisco.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
and
canned.
it's
whatever you offer is already canned. It's not like the user can add or remove or subtract
Absolutely.
or tweak or.
You plug it in and you either love it or it doesn't do what you want. Okay.
Well, and as a testimonial, the opposite is you plug it in, you try and customize it, and now you've got this beast that you have to try and figure out how to scale out that doesn't scale out very well, because that's exactly what.
And that's the key thing. We get asked all the time by clients, can I add this little variable? And we say, well, that sounds easy. But our clients expect us to take that and do it on 50,000 of their devices around the whole planet and do it from one box. So suddenly we're not talking about one variable anymore, we're talking about lots of them everywhere. And it's that scalability thing that complexity and flexibility are the same thing. So we try to take out that flexibility and just say, this is what you're probably going to want to do 99% of the time. And then MRTG and WhatsApp and the other tools can be used at what they're really good for. Picking the individual variable that you want, that's the humidity sensor on the back of an air conditioning unit that you might want to look at that variable once a year maybe. Well, don't use your core product for that. Just go and use MRTG to get that when you want it.